public input. Let's go with pretty much the basic of city council, and that is 5 minutes per speaker, 15 minutes per topic. You may speak once, but that's it, so use up your whole 5 minutes. And it would be appreciated if you could come up front and stand out at the crowd so that they can hear you while you give your name and address and the matter of which you want to speak. And it will be timed.
I have a question. Okay, if we go by the city council, then we have open discussion at the beginning of the meeting, and then after the board, we have another open discussion.
Okay, well, we're modifying that tonight. And I guess we'll have one public input and then another public input at the end. These are adapted, they're not Xerox. So, the city has vastly more dramatic things to do than we as well. Who would like to speak first? Lynn, would you come up here and face the group and give your name and address?
Face this group?
Any group you can figure out how to stand. No matter what you do, your back's to somebody.
My name is Lynn Cameron. I live at 21600 Southeast Coop Road in Eagle Creek, and I have 5 topics that I'd like to mention tonight. I'd like to encourage the board to determine by a vote whether Karen Hardman should be removed from the board or make a public apology for misrepresenting the Estacada Library Foundation at the February 9th Library Board meeting. 2, I'd like to encourage the board to discuss and determine whether the library director is performing in a professional and competent manner when interacting with the Estacada Library Foundation, and if not, what can be done to correct the situation. 3, the board should discuss the merits of compiling a new board member information packet, determine the packet contents, and see to it that the packet is made available as soon as possible to new board members. 4, if the bylaw naming the library director as secretary for the duty of taking minutes at library board meetings is changed to allow the director to designate someone else to take minutes, please consider also stipulating that the persons designated by the director serve as a volunteer, taking no financial compensation for their service. And 5, the board should discuss the benefits to the board and the community of having a parliamentarian join the board, or discuss adding an additional board title of parliamentarian. The National Association of Parliamentarians offers online classes. The Mount Hood unit meets in Gresham the second Thursday of the month from 7:30 to 9. And I have some information I'd like to supply the board members if I may approach the board. Thank you. That's the only board member, so you want one more?
Yes. Janet Bourne will not be here today. Is there another speaker who would like to be recognized? Come forward. State your name and address. And it appears that will be open. So let us move into the director's report.
You'd like to take a look at your general revenue, ledger, revenue and expenses.
Yeah, here
If you look at the general revenue and expenses, we're doing well. We have May, June left in this fiscal year, and we're at, let's see. Yeah, we're at 50%, 51% of our budget is expended. I don't really have any other comments about this budget.
Okay, and we all received it in advance that we could go over it. So with the annual changes in statistics and looking at the general ledger. You don't have to be afraid that you're going to come out short at the end of the fiscal year.
No, we have a big cash carryover of $320,000 this year, which is very good. It's going to stand us in good stead for the first half of the budget year next year when we're not receiving funds from tax money. And so that way we won't have to borrow money from the city.
Is it your intention, Anna, to spend all of the collection development money that's allocated for this year, or are you?
Yes, yes. We carried over money before, but this year we would like to beef up our collection a little more.
Yeah, I'm talking about this year's, not next year's fiscal budget. I'm talking about this year's budget. And I'm curious as to where we are coming up with the $80,000 to $100,000 that is supplementing next year's budget. I know that there was some additions that we received more. We received more we received more distribution money, about $13,000 or $14,000 for this fiscal year than was originally intended, and that's great. I'm happy to hear that, but that still leaves a lot of money on the table. And where are we coming up with all the savings?
We have significant savings in the area of contractual services. Last year, we spent far more than we are this year. We changed janitorial services. We canceled our aquarium service. We cut back on the window cleaning. And also, we were really working on, well, that would fall under utilities, but we cut back our utilities this year as well.
What did that contractual service, what did that really do?
What does that cover?
Yeah.
We provide all of the maintenance for the building. So that covers landscaping. We have landscaping guys that come every month. We have a company that looks after our HVAC system, the regular maintenance on that. The air conditioning and heat.
Okay.
And then what else do we have contractual? Cleaning, janitorial services. Did that 4 times a week. I think that's mostly most of them. Oh, the copier machine. Oh, that's also contractual.
So instead of 30,000, you think 20,000 maybe?
Well, no, it was more last year. And we're expecting it to be about 30,000 to this.
Okay, so yeah, it was 40 last year.
40,000 last year, and we're thinking that we can do 30,000 this coming year. If you look on your budget analysis page. I don't really have a building update today. And so that's it for the director's report.
All right, then let's continue on the agenda. We have a consent agenda now, as we follow the basic outline of city council to, at one fell swoop, approve the minutes from March 22nd, April 2nd, and April 16th, which I believe Melanie emailed to you, is that correct? Melanie has emailed to you. Perhaps we could step in when these are ready. I don't know what will happen in mail if it goes from Estacada to Eagle Creek. I don't know if it detours in Portland first.
Yeah, I think all mail goes to Portland.
So I'll have to find some other way to reach you, I guess, since you cannot be accessed by email. After our discussion last time, do we move to approve the budget?
We're still on the consent agenda.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so what's happening with the consent agenda?
I move to approve the minutes as they stand.
I second.
I abstain in a second, but you're going to have to get those minutes really. Yeah?
I don't have a library. It's been down for 3 weeks.
Okay, so you need to have, I
I'm
think it's
not
an email.
Melanie has been sending out the emails, so.
Guess we need to send hard copy to her because she says her computer isn't working.
Okay.
And mine doesn't work real well. We have a motion and a second. And an abstention. All in favor, say aye. Aye. That motion passes then. Now we can go with the old budget.
I have an item I'd like to add. I talked to Melanie about this, and she said that I could add items. I contacted her on Monday, and under old business and a few others. I don't know if this is an appropriate time to add them. Under old business, I would like to have a discussion about a conflict resolution between the library board and the foundation board. So however you'd like to fit that in between, and then I've got a couple new business items as well that we can get to that.
Well, under old business also, we need to vote on having 2 months, that we can only change the bylaws by making a motion of one regularly scheduled library board, and then we can only change or add the bylaw at the next regularly scheduled bylaw. And it's been 2 months now, I think, because we didn't do anything last time, so.
We didn't do anything with that.
Are you moving such?
I can move right now that
I thought we had done that.
we did the first, but we didn't do the second because we have to follow the same. So this is another regularly scheduled. And so I'd like to so move that we can only, so that would mean that we cannot change or add a bylaw without it being proposed at one regularly scheduled library board meeting, and then it can be approved at the next month at the regularly scheduled library board meeting.
Second.
Can we kind of go back to you? So I just want to make sure that I got it. So
Yeah.
you are moving that the bylaws cannot be changed or you cannot add a bylaw without having it add or change the bylaws without having it proposed at one regularly scheduled meeting and then approved at the next regularly scheduled. So it's proposed at one and approved at the next regularly
I
scheduled.
thought we had already done that.
We did the first part of it, got proposed, but it's, and then we didn't do anything last time about it. And so,
Because we said that works well with city council, giving you a little bit to think about.
Right.
We've got it passed now.
Okay, so, and Craig seconded that, okay.
Do you have something else?
No, I just said, is there any discussion on that?
No, I think we've discussed it before. I think it's one that the city council is going to do, talk about it maybe once, but don't vote on it until the next time.
I call the question.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Did you have something else in this area?
Under old business, we can either go to the budget discussion, or we can go to what I have, which is Library Board, Foundation Board, Conflict Resolution. How would you like to, what order would you like to address these?
The budget first.
Great.
I move that we adopt the budget as presented.
Well, you know,
I missed the workshop. I'm sorry, but I got this bronchitis, so I really would like to postpone and get and talk more about the budget. And I know it's my fault, but I didn't think you wanted to share the bronchitis.
no. We appreciate
And I
that.
was crying contagious at that point. So don't we have wiggle room before we?
Not very much, Berlene. We drug this out and drug this out.
Yeah, I know.
And we had copies of it before to look at so that you could have questions. And I don't want to drag it out any further.
City budget committee votes on May 15th.
May what?
May 15th.
Okay, well, seems like I saw someplace a possibility of another workshop.
Where did you see that?
I don't remember. I got a few papers around.
Okay, I'll come back to the
But you know,
question.
like the salaries and everything, I would like to discuss that. I have questions.
All of my questions haven't been answered either. I just feel that it would be prudent to have another work session in order to really look at this more closely. I haven't really got the questions answered of where are we coming up with the additional funds that you know we're somehow we're rolling over $80,000 to $100,000 from this year into next year's budget, and I have no answer on where that money is coming from. And my opinion is that, well, I don't think it's an opinion, regardless of whether we roll money into the budget this year and have another, well, we continue to go along the path we're going, that means that next year then we'll have to bite the bullet, because we won't have the luxury of this, the surplus that we have right now. It will be used up in a year, and then next year will be $80,000 to $100,000 short. And then at that, I've heard no options to the budget that's been presented, and then I've heard no resolutions as to how we will address those next year. So I'm deeply concerned that we're just putting a Band-Aid on it for this year, and then next year we're going to have to make very significant cuts into the budget. So I personally would like to have another work session and look at this a little further.
Now, do you remember when Denise came up and talked to us and said this budget can be changed at any time, that it's not going to be chiseled in stone, but changes can be made? I'm sure you also heard the news today that we are getting more money than we thought, and that would be good.
I hadn't heard that.
I don't remember. And then I didn't catch the pie say, I hope it's more than just the state as a whole and not just us, but I'm not sure. I mean, we can talk this thing as much as you want, which I mean, as much as you want is to eliminate a position. And I don't want to do that. So we can talk it over and talk it over, but I doubt that much will change.
my position is not set in stone to eliminate any position. My position is to create a balanced budget that best serves the needs of the entire community. And I feel that this budget is, it needs work.
Please explain what you think is not sustainable about this budget.
Well,
Okay.
go ahead.
Well, for one thing, with cuts in hours, I would like to see a reduction in salaries, I guess, across the board. And I don't know if that is.
Okay, I don't understand. Do you mean
Well-
cutting their hourly pay or just having them work fewer hours? What do you want to do?
Well, I guess tree people do not get any cuts in salary, right?
I believe so.
Okay, well, you know, part-time people are taking the cuts because we cut hours. And I would
They
like to
cut
see-
2 hours a week. 2 hours a week. And the deal with that is, Elaine, that over the last 2 years, those hours have been added to their schedules because whenever someone leaves, we divide their hours up amongst other people that are already on staff. So that in the next year or so, you know, it's really probable that they'll get those hours back anyway.
Okay, that's good. Would you be willing to take a 2-hour cut in salary?
I don't believe that works with her.
I have taken on, Michelle, Sarah, and I have all taken on additional work, and other staff have not been asked to take on additional work except for maybe Lori Bailey, who has been, she's gotten a raise for her willingness to take on youth services programming.
Well,
I think it's unfair for us to take on additional work and expect a cut in pay.
Well, as a former teacher, I know you're expected to do more and more. With experience, you could handle more and more. And, you know, I was a one-woman department for both art and drama and did all the play productions, and, you know, extra pay was allowed. So,
I really try to make the cuts as small as possible, and 2 hours a week that will probably be restored in the next hour or next year or so, I think is not unreasonable. Other libraries are closing days, they're closing more days, they laid off people. Canby is closed down to 40 hours a week. They're now open 40 hours a week.
What would be, Anna, let me ask you, where would you make the cuts when we are, so we'll put it off till next year. If we approve this budget as is, everything just rolls right along, and then next year we come along and we don't have the luxury of $80,000 to $100,000 extra, where are the cuts going to come then?
Well, I suggest that we...
Excuse me, I was asking Anna, excuse me. Where will the cuts come from then?
We'll have to take a look at the budget and we'll make some cuts. But I don't...
Well, that's
How do you know that we're going to
as-
have so much less after the next fiscal year? How do you know that?
Well, the only way that you will have, because of looking at the budget, because the rollover amount. And I'm being told that because of cuts to, we decided to cut the library hours and cut the part-time staff for the balance of this year. That was supposed to provide savings that would then roll into next year's budget to help ease the transition to less money from the county. But what I'm seeing is, in fact, in the minutes we just approved, you said that you were trying to add back hours and time and hours of service, hours that the library's open, and hours to the part-time employees. But it doesn't add up. It does not add
We're
up.
also down 2/3 of the librarian. We don't have that youth services position anymore.
I thought you just said Lori Bailey was taking
Lori
that
Bailey is
position.
doing it. She's not a librarian. She's not taking on that many additional hours. Jenny Fleenor was 30 hours a week. She's a librarian, and so we hired her at higher than the salary was listed for. So, I really don't understand why you think this is so unsustainable. We have a really decent amount of carryover. We've managed to save a lot this year, and, I don't understand why that's a problem rather than a thing to be happy about.
Well, now, isn't there an increase in benefits as well as salary for the licensed librarians? And so, if we look at the salaries and the benefits, which are a big part of the budget, where would you cut? If it had to come from salaries, and would you rather not have certified, just have one certified librarian?
No, if you take a look at the librarians in Clackamas County, most of the librarians have 2 librarians. It really takes 2 people. You need a director and a person who is kind of on the floor, working with programming and working with the community. It's just not reasonable to expect one person to be able to do it all. There's way too much to do. We have so many things that we offer here, and listening to the strategic planning committee, they are not willing to cut back on programming and services offered. They are asking us to keep it up. They're happy with the level of services and happy with the level of programming. We've been able to offer adult programming for the first time in a long time on a regular basis. And we have outreach. We reach out to Head Start. We work with the Red Barn Preschool. We work with the schools. That has increased our registrations with our, we take applications to the schools, and that brings in more kids. And then it brings them to the library, and then they have a happy experience at the library. There's been so many wonderful things for them. We have literacy for the parents, literacy programs.
Yeah, that's really nice, but if you had to cut, and if you had to cut from salaries or benefits, how would you do it?
I'm not sure. I'd have to take a closer look.
The benefits are set by the city with our insurance plans.
So we have no flexibility or say over the benefits?
No.
It had to be the strict salary. And this is, that would be a shame, but I think you could develop very talented volunteers. And that's maybe not fair. I mean, it's the same way like asking people to coach teams and not.
Volunteers are not, no.
They're not
They're volunteers.
They're not accountable. They're really, they get upset about something, they can walk, and we never see them again. We're looking at having a set of volunteers that work well for us. They do specific tasks. But, counting on volunteers is really not the way we're running a library. It's really not.
There's a motion on the table to pass the budget. It hasn't received a second at this point.
I'll second it.
You made the motion.
I don't think I can second it since I made it.
I believe you can.
I'm enthusiastic, but not for, we have 2 positions. So is there going to be a second to this budget?
Motion fails. I move that we schedule another work session on the budget.
Possibly even after this meeting.
No, we'll wait till the 5th person is here. She could not be here this evening.
How about in a week? Is that possible?
Not for me, not on Thursday.
Okay. Well,
I don't.
my schedule's
Yeah.
fairly open. I'm willing to work around
Come
other
on.
people's schedules.
Early, your schedule is pretty much driving this progress. And maybe at some point, you're going to have to make a decision on a date.
Be flexible.
So that would be,
What's your time frame? It's like, but it's like later in the evening better. I mean, 6:37 better for you.
I'm usually home by 4, so I mean, that's not. The only day I'm home late is Monday.
Yeah. We're going by 4.
so what are we talking about?
A think we're talking about maybe next week.
Next
Getting done.
Thursday?
I think Bill would like to have this budget into the city
Well,
council.
yes, it would be good to get it done.
Yes.
I could.
Well, why don't we set it for
First
Thursday?
Tuesday.
Why
Are
don't
that
we?
strategic, is a strategic plan really going to be?
Yes. I think we should just set it for next Thursdays. And those who can come at that date can come.
I can't.
You may have to prioritize whatever other meeting you have.
How about the following week? We've got until the 14th.
No, if it's a Thursday, it's really
No,
bad.
how about somewhere like, how about,
different day.
yeah, how about the 8th or 9th, the Tuesday or Wednesday?
On Tuesday.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Wednesday.
So that I thought it was.
Wednesday the 9th?
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's,
What time?
5:30 again, does that work?
I'm putting up the-
Which day was it?
Thursday.
Thursday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Wednesday the 9th at 5:30.
Are we talking about May 9th?
May.
Yes. I think May 9th is, oh, it is a Wednesday.
Okay.
Wednesday, May 9th, 5:30. Here?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I do not want this to be a workshop.
What's
I'd
that?
like this to be a regular meeting so that we can vote on it or not at the end of the meeting and not have to reconvene. So be prepared to make a decision then and have all of the material read and up to date.
5:30, the 9th. So do we want, are we having a meeting or a work session?
We are having a meeting.
That's not what the motion was.
Motion was have a workshop.
I know we really have a thing with that. Okay, there's no second to your motion. I would like to have this extra meeting, May 9th, be a regular meeting that will start at 5:30 with the intent only of the
There's
budget.
still a meeting, there's still a motion on the floor. You know,
I thought it had died for
No.
lack of a second.
the motion on the floor is that we hold a board work session. We were deciding on the date and time, on Wednesday the 9th at 5:30. I move that we have a board work session on Wednesday the 9th at 5:30.
Second.
Call the question. All in favor?
Suzanne?
Yes.
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 No.
So this will be, does that pass?
Yes, it passed.
Okay, so can I clarify that it is a work session and the budget will not be voted on? So you're going to meet again after that?
Yes.
That's okay.
The other old business item I have is the conflict between the library board and the foundation board has gone on too long. We have been waiting, Karen, for a retraction from you that you said you would give. You said it at this meeting. You've said it multiple times. There's been no retraction. To the best of my, I've talked to 3 people that were actually at the meeting, and the information that you gave at the February 9th meeting was incorrect according to the 3 people that I spoke to that were at the meeting. If you read Betty Vivanero's letter to the editor, I've been told that is a very accurate representation of the events that occurred that evening. I've tried to suggest mediation. I've tried to suggest any number of ways to resolve this issue, and I just don't see any way around it other than for you to either resign from the board or, I'll give you that opportunity, or I will make a motion under the bylaws and policies. You are not following the code of conduct of the board of directors as it is spelled out in the bylaws and policies. So are you willing to resign?
No.
I move to remove Karen Hardman from the Estacada Public Library Board of Directors.
You can't do that. You have to
Immediately.
recommend to the city council.
Excuse me, and I have every right to do that. It's within it's in the bylaws and policies. And if you'd like me to read it to you, I will.
I have called, I have gone into the bookness, and the street runs both ways.
No, it doesn't. It does not run both ways.
Okay.
You spoke for the Estacada Public Library Board.
No,
Yes, you did not. There's been no retraction in the paper. You spoke directly for this board multiple times in the paper and up here.
There was a retraction in the paper
Where was it?
last week.
I believe it was a clarification.
Oh, the correction you mean?
Doesn't
It's
matter,
in your,
it's
it's in
there.
your packet.
So,
I was sending something that corrected so that it would say I was not speaking on behalf of the board. So it was my,
I would like you to show me the bylaws where you have the right to remove somebody from the board.
What is that?
I'd like you to show me the bylaws where this board has the authority to remove somebody from a council appointed position.
I believe it's
While you guys are looking that up, Bill, I have a question. Mr. Elmer,
you're
on
out
the
of
council, on the city council, when the board meeting.
Madam, you are out of order. You're having a meeting and you should not be speaking at this time in your question. That's what the city council is talking.
They also tell you that they have a session at the end of the meeting that the public is allowed to talk again. That is the way with the city council and the park and rec.
That's what we have to put on the agenda at the end of the meeting.
Okay, we're going next time.
I think according to this, the only thing you can do is make a recommendation to the city council. And it's up to the city council.
Yeah,
If they
it's a
take any
recommendation. I think, what page is that?
It's on page 3.
That's the Bible.
You're absolutely correct. That must be, there are multiple copies of the bylaws and policies floating around out there, and this is the one I was given at the most recent meeting. So I will withdraw my motion and put out a new motion. I recommend that the Estacada Public Library Board of Trustees recommend to the Estacada City Council that Karen Hardman be removed from the board.
Second. My vote is no.
I would have to vote no at this time.
Vote yes.
I don't know if you can vote on this, Craig,
Of course,
because
just like any other motion.
any action that might involve his spouse in any manner, I believe he cannot vote upon.
How does
Well, that's like saying you can't be on the board.
Oh, no, there are lots of things.
I have that on my list to address. Mr. Elliott was kind enough to include in my welcoming letter to the board an email linking me to the ethics pages concerning Oregon public employees, or excuse me, Oregon public officials. And I have reviewed the conflict of interest. Number one, it does not pertain to this vote because this does not pertain to my spouse in any way. We're talking about you. But what the law says is that if there is an actual conflict of interest, and it is up to me to determine that, although I can be reprimanded or I can be cited by the ethics review board. But it is up to me to decide whether it is an actual conflict of interest or a potential conflict of interest. But there is a clause that says that if the relative is a member of a group that is all affected the same, then the conflict of interest is void. So my position would be that my wife is a part of the group of the part-time staff, and that any actions I take would influence the entire group. That said, my wife and I have agreed that she will not seek, while I'm on the board of directors, she will not seek any additional hours or any additional compensation that is not due to everybody. I would hope that would resolve the issue. But at this point, we're in a 2-2 deadlock. So I would assume the motion fails.
I would say the motion fails. I think that you covered the old business. So be prepared to discuss it on the 9th of May, which I hope is our final get-together on it. New business.
We have a large aquarium in the library that we would like to remove. It's been great, but I've had aquariums for many years, and the glass on it is kind of thin, and I just kind of see a problem in the future. And we'd like to expand the teen area a little bit, have some furniture out to expand the teen area to that space where the aquarium is. And we got it from the Red Barn Preschool, and so the Red Barn Preschool is once again interested in it, and they're going to use it as a terrarium, which I'm relieved to hear. So there won't be an issue of possible problems with the glass not being thick enough. So we took it to the city council to ask them if we could just give it back to the Red Barn Preschool, and they agreed that would be fine. And Bill Elliott also has signed off on it. I just want to let you know that that's what's going on with that program.
Do you need a motion? No, I think that's a consensus. It's an all in favor.
I have some additional new business. One is I would like to nominate Suzanne Sager to be the treasurer of the library board.
Sager.
Sager, excuse me, I'm sorry. Any discussion? She's a great choice. She has experience, and she was the treasurer for the OLA, so I think that qualifies her far more than me.
I'll second it. What are you waiting on? Let's vote. Is that not correct? It's been moved and seconded, and it's time to vote. So Susanna?
Well, I'm assuming I can't vote
Yes, you
on
can.
that.
You can.
Yeah, I'll vote yes. Good.
Yes. I vote yes.
Yes.
Does that have a notebook that, that's from Treasury Law, we have to pass along to you?
Okay. And if you'd like to get together and, let me know exactly what I need to do. We can get together and figure out what it kind of be.
Okay.
Another item I would like to see added is committee reports. We now have both a strategic planning committee going and we have LDAC, which is me at this point. But I'd like to see some committee reports added. And under LDAC, I would just like to say that my term is up. My 3 years is up this June, I believe. So I think it would be a prudent time to start looking for a replacement. I know that Johnny Reynolds has expressed interest in this position, and I would, of course, this is has to go before the city council, I believe, for appointment. But I would like to move that we recommend Johnny Reynolds to the city council for the upcoming opening to LDAC. I would like to get on this now so that she could, the next meeting is coming up in May, and I'd like to have her attend a meeting with me so that I could kind of introduce her to the people and kind of hand off the information that I have.
And I'm presuming there's not a lot of competition for this job. I second it.
Call for the question. In
I
favor? Aye.
So I guess I will contact Sean Drinkwine and see if he will recommend you to the council, and I'll get in touch with you by email or whatever, John. Thank you.
Also, under new business, I'd like to add fundraising, that since the foundation isn't contributing to the library, we're probably going to have to come up with some fundraising ideas. One of which may be either an ongoing shelves here of books that have been donated or discarded. And that I'd like to have Joanne explain, because she did that for many years. Could you tell people, do you want to stand and tell them, or turn around about how this situation has gone on for many years?
Well, a long time ago, we would get discards in our donations, and originally we just had a little shelf in the library in the city hall. And we sold them right there, and they just took them out. Then, of course, the book nook started, and the book nook took care of all of our discards and things. And when the discards come in to the library, I go through them and separate anything that we can use out of them, because a lot of them are in excellent shape and things that we don't have. And the others all went to the book nook, separated them. Right now, I'm basically doing that same thing, except on the ones that I don't use, I'm separating into the ones that are in good condition, that could be sold or used, and ones that nobody would ever buy. They might have water damage that are old and yellow and a lot of other things. So what I've been doing is just keeping them separate. In case you ever need them. So there are a few books that come in that are just beyond help. I mean, they've got mildew and all that kind of stuff. They go directly into a pile that goes into recycle. Before, when the book nook took all our books, they took care of recycling and going through them. Right now, when I separate them, the ones that aren't in good condition, I've been putting them out in a box for people to just take if they want them. And they're not
worth selling, there would be things that would be hauled off to the recycler. And it's been a great thing. I don't know, everything I've put out there, somebody has picked up, and people are sharing them, and a lot of people are taking the things I put out there and bring them back to me again, and put them out there again. Or they take things out of there and I'll find books in the box that I've never seen before, so they're just exchanging it, which is kind of nice. It's kind of a sharing program. And it saves us from having to take things to recycle, and it also gives people something that they might be able to use. As far as the ones that we have plenty of books that are in good shape that would be available to sell. We've talked about having some shelves that we could put them on. I don't know the specifics or anything's come up with, but they're available, and that if somebody wanted to go into that, to do that program, to volunteer their time, to do that, all the things are there for them to do. So I don't know if there's any questions or what we're doing.
So some of the donated books go on the shelves?
Absolutely, anything we can use, because those are good books. There's often multiple copies of bestsellers, and it saves us from buying them. There's often many books that we didn't have enough money in our budget to get all the things that we wanted, new books. Like we got some, I went through today, and there probably were 5 or 6 books in there. They were nonfiction books. They were dated 2011 and 12, their copyright date, and we didn't have them. So those are really, it's worthwhile to get those things. Plus we get a lot of children's books, a lot of paperbacks that people will bring in. So
how many books on average would you say that you get that are shelved for the library in a week? Roughly, I mean, are you talking 40 or?
Well, it really depends. You might go 2 or 3 weeks without getting anything, and then might get 5 boxes of books. So probably
An average?
donation, I would say I'd probably put at least 3 to 5 books a week, maybe, on average, if you put it out there. Sometimes they're not new books, but they're books that we don't have, but that are in good shape.
Well, that's a lot of books through the course of the year. That's good.
It is, it really is, there's a lot. So I've been kind of trying to keep track of them lately, because I never did before.
Do we have any shelving available that we could, I'd really like to see a nice, some kind of shelf out in the, in the foyer there to put the books on as opposed to the box.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like three kittens.
Well, it is like 3 kittens, but then if you look at the condition of some of those books, you think.
Right. No, I mean, and I think it's great that they're being shared with the community, I think that's wonderful, and thank you for, your skill at.
Well, we just tried it and we were amazed. I mean, the first time I must have put 30 books out in that box, and they were gone by the end of the day. So it's.
What size of shelf do you think you'd need?
Well, I don't know, at this point, we just take the box in if we don't have anything to put in
Right,
it.
so something that would hold maybe 50 books or something would, because they go pretty quick, right?
Those do.
Okay.
I don't know if that would be necessary, but it's something to think about, to do something.
How many discards are we, or how many non-usable books are we, in the same, you got a pile, you were saying there's some of them that, obviously if they're stained.
I would say
torn,
probably 10%, maybe 15% are not usable. The rest of them would be available to sell.
Nice.
Because a lot of them, they run a course. They'll be very popular for a while, and then they'll sit there for 2 or 3 years, and nobody wants them anymore.
Right.
We have new books to put on the shelf.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's great.
yeah, but some of those books are like brand new, but they're not usable for us anymore.
Right.
So that's something that we thought if we could figure out a way to sell those right here would be a good thing.
Is there enough staff time to take care of that?
I don't think it would be, we would really do it with staff time.
So volunteers?
Yeah, that's really what this whole kind of thing, I think would go around. It's not anything that if we had some shelves available for books to sell, the staff wouldn't be the ones that divided them and put them out on the shelf or did anything like that.
But that would be a perfect job for a volunteer.
Yeah, either a volunteer or a group, a civic group or something. But it should be a volunteer thing. The going through of the donations, I think is a good idea for us to do. But then it's just, they're separated just in bulk, we're not separating them by DVDs and books and kids' books or anything. They just all go together. That if somebody took care of the sale, that they'd be the ones that would do that.
That would be a good project for a friends group.
It would be great. It would be a good project for anybody, that wanted to spend the time. We do have them in bags and boxes right now, available.
So we can start whenever you say we're ready to start, because we have books already back there.
We do.
Thinking of similar prices to the book note, $2 a book, 50 cents for anything else. There's no desire to undercut. It's just a case of we need to expand our horizons with fundraising. Thank you very much for coming. The magazines are free. A gentleman sent an email to the strategic plan with a fundraising idea. I thought had some real merit to it. For a long time, I kind of wish there would be one part of the library where you could go have a cup of coffee and read your newspaper away from stumbling hands, perhaps. And a gentleman wrote in and said, how about having some kind of a coffee cart outside? Well, that's an interesting idea. We might have to work on that. I think that would be pretty nice if we could do something that won't involve spilling. And for us not to do it, but for someone else to do it. And we would go around to the local purveyors of fine coffee and see if they would like to have a little sub-site up here. So that's another fundraising idea coming in. And I would hope that each month we would be able to report to the board how much is raised with book sales. And in time, a coffee stand. And that is all I have, is for a new business. And this is time for another public input.
This letter asks that these things be added to the agenda.
Well, we'll do that next month.
Next time,
Yes, that would be fine.
instead of now. Because it was
Instead
the
of now.
15th.
It was, but people cannot select items to go on the agenda at their time. We'll still be here next month, and we'll invite you back next month.
So there's a deadline for getting things on the agenda.
We'd like to have them early enough that we can send out to people. That's why we started sending them out early. But
Well,
I don't know how this would put, I know, I'm not sure where to put this on the agenda. And so maybe we need to take a break on that, and that can happen next meeting when Janet is back as well. Is there any further public input from someone who's not spoken yet? Yes, would you please come up here and
Where would you like me to come?
any place up here?
maybe over there.
There. Yeah. Then we can hear you and bump in. So need your name and address.
My name is Kay Hunselman. My number is P.O. Box 361, Eagle Creek, Oregon. And while I don't live in Estacada, I'm still affected by the library. And I want you to know that I am so disappointed because in 2009, people voted for the levy that would fund the library completely. And, you know, at the time, I marveled that it passed because people were losing their homes. And it costs, some people didn't have the money to pay for that, and I don't know if they lost their homes. But the question that I want to direct to you is you. I was chair of the Clackamas County Extension Advisory Committee a few decades ago, and those people were all volunteers. Those leaders and assistant leaders were all volunteers. So I would like to know why you feel that volunteers are incapable of coming and working in the library. You know, we have a lot of unemployed people, and having something to do rather than sit home and feel sorry for themselves would be very, very important. So I'd like to know what your criteria is that volunteers are incapable of working here at the library and helping out.
Okay, we will get back to you.
Thank you.
I'm Shirley Burke. I live at 1025 Northwest Casino Court. I spend quite a few days here at this library. As far as volunteers are concerned, I worked my way through junior high, up through high school, volunteering for the library. And those kids capable of that school to get credits, or get work experience, get the credits from the school to be a volunteer librarian. My daughter has a business in town, and she has the capacity and to know that these kids need experience. She takes kids down there and she pays them above minimum wage to be a volunteer. So I think volunteers are more important in this library than anything else. And as far as having 2 paid librarians for this library, when we're only required to have 1 completely paid librarian, is a waste of money.
Thank you, Myra. We will take that under consideration. Is there anything else? I move we adjourn.